Hello, beautiful. Today, I have a very special guest for you. I have known him for over 28 years, and we share a lot in common, including our love for a Florida summer. Today, I am excited to introduce you to my second oldest brother, Jake Brown. While his career is at Blue Origin and it's designing and implementing training systems for the astronauts, I believe I got that correct. He has been in the gym for as long as I can personally remember. I am so excited for you to get to hear from him today. And when you're listening to this, it's his birthday. So please go wish him a happy birthday. And without further ado, welcome Jake to Your Body Is Not the Problem podcast.
Thank you very much, and thank you for saying hello, beautiful. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Hello, beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I came out lifting weights actually. So from day one. Yeah.
See, I knew I remembered that happening, even though I guess I wasn't there when you came out on day one, but I remember it.
Few years
Uh
ahead.
yeah, just a few. To start, can you tell us a bit more about you, please, and your body image journey?
Sure. Yeah. So started working out actually not till after high school, believe it or not.
Not
So
on
like
day one?
no, it wasn't day one. That's definitely a joke, but older brother Matt says the same thing. So I figured I'd keep it going. But yeah, no. So started working out way back in 2008 was probably when I actually started working out. So this is just after high school. In high school, I never really cared much about going to the gym or anything like that. It wasn't really a thing I did. I did like to go to the physical training. Well, I don't know what you call it in high school, gym class, phys ed. Um, Everybody calls it something different these days. But yeah, I didn't really. I dropped it after grade nine. It was an elective you didn't have to take, and I figured, I'll spend my time on the sciences and stuff like that instead. In math, I think I took pretty much every math course you could in high school. But I'd go once every couple years back to the gym just to see what I could lift, just because I like to push myself compared to the other folks that I went to school with. And I guess you don't say folks anymore. That's just a sign that I'm old. But yeah, so after that, my first real time in the gym would have been, I think, when I lived in Barrie, Ontario, when I first went to school out there, and met some guys there, and they said, "Hey, you want to go to the gym?" And I was like, I don't know anybody here. Why not? Let's do it. So I went to the gym, and the next day I was really sore, and I was like, oh, why do people do this to themselves? But I enjoyed it. So yeah, I started going a little bit, and then long story short, I didn't stay at that school for very long. I got bored. I get bored pretty easily if I'm not challenging myself. So I left there, came back, started flying, didn't work out again, and I never, I don't think I cared too much about what I looked like at that time. I wasn't really I didn't really care much about like dating people or anything like that. I didn't have a girlfriend or anybody in high school or anything like that. I really just worked on cars and did sciences. So it wasn't much of a worry of mine at the time. I think I started more so when I went to college a second time after some of my initial flight training and that moved to Kingston, Ontario. And I did have a girlfriend at that time. Won't go into that story, but more or less, I met some folks there after. Was it before or after? Probably partially during whatnot, breakup and stuff like that. I was like, I need something to do, and I had a lot of good friends that I still talk to today. I haven't seen them in years, but one of them actually came down to visit in Miami not too long ago. But we
Nice.
started going to the gym. There'd be like 15 of us that would go and just take over the gym and just rotate through everything and just work out. And it wasn't more so for body image at that time. It was more so a way to spend my time that wasn't thinking about everything else. Um, it was a long-term relationship that ended and I was upset. So I was like, let's distract and work out. And that's what it kind of started out with. And then, you start to see results and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. And felt good about myself and, felt healthy and all that, even though diet probably wasn't really healthy now that I know more about like what I was eating at the time and can only eat so many greasy things before it comes back to get you too. But yeah, no, that was probably the start of it. And then I just stuck with it ever since. So I actually had someone stop me at, and you might find this interesting, at Lowe's the other day when I was out there with Ollie and Jess. And yeah, the guy stopped me and he was like, well, look at that tricep. And it was really funny. And this guy was probably in his 60s, probably like 6'5", super tall dude. And yeah, he just stopped me and started talking about that. And I guess he's one of the old school guys that from like Ronnie Coleman, Arnold
Uh,
Schwarzenegger. Lou Ferrigno, the old school, like original
Mm.
OG bodybuilders, the guys that look like they're like action figures because they were too big, all steroided up and like massive, and obviously do not do steroids. They are terrible. Never tried, never will. And but yeah, no, we had a funny conversation. One of those ones where you can't really get away from, and you don't want to be rude. But it was interesting and funny, and the workers there thought it was hilarious. But yeah, I don't know how detail you want me to go on that. But yeah, more so that's when I started. Here I am today. I go Monday to Friday every morning, usually around 6:15 in the morning. I get to the gym and I work out till about 7:30 or so, and then start my day.
I think a lot of us can relate to getting into those conversations with strangers who are like, I don't know how to get out of this." But and I also find it interesting because I feel like for a lot of us, the conversations are also body related in some way. So like for yours, it was your triceps. I know that there was once that I was walking on the beach and a guy, um, also I think maybe in his 50s or 60s, was making a comment that he thought I was working off the baby fat. I was like, no, just have a stomach. Thanks though. Um, but it's also interesting timing that you mentioned that it's kind of like after that breakup that you got more into working out because tomorrow I'm interviewing another guest and we're talking about body image like after breakups.
Oh,
So interesting timing.
yeah.
But I think it's also interesting to just like hear that like in high school you were stopping like you didn't go to gym, you chose like other things. And I think it's important to remember that like there's a whole bunch of aspects to life. Like
Oh yeah.
there's learning, there's if you want to go to the gym, there's having connections with friends, there's work, there's relationships. Like there's so many other parts where it's like I know for myself in like 2020, 2021, 2022, like I was solely focused on like working out was my entire life. And I think it's important to remember like there's a lot more to life than just working out. So I think it's cool to hear it's like everyone goes through phases of sometimes you're at the gym, sometimes you're not at the gym. Sometimes there's a different form of movement that feels good. Like for you, maybe it's running after your son, right?
Yeah. And like definitely, yeah, like I don't know, today I didn't go to the gym this morning. And I didn't go to the gym because I'm probably going to spend 10 hours working on my car. So,
Yeah.
multiple reasons I choose not to go to the gym. One, I'm going to be just as active today doing other stuff and it's hot outside and I'm probably going to sweat a ton. And if I go to the gym, I'm not going to want to do that. So that's one reason. And, other reasons why I sometimes choose not to go to the gym. Maybe I hurt something. I'm old. Maybe I slept wrong and hurt my neck. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm not going to work out today. I don't know. Like you miss a day, it's not the end of the world. And I think it's really easy for people to fall into the trap of, I have to stick with this every single day, no matter what. And like, there's one thing is discipline, and especially being in the military, and for 5 years, you get into routine and habit and telling yourself, I must do this, I must do this. And like the discipline you build from that is definitely valuable. But at the same time, understanding like if I take a day off, it's not the end of the world. If I take a week off, that's fine. If I go to Mexico, I'm not one of those people that's like, I have to find the gym while I'm on vacation because I have to work out. It's like, no, I'm going to go eat the all you can eat buffet all day and then go like rot on the beach and just hang out. And that's fine. I'll deal with it later. But I think it's like finding that, for me at least, I think it's finding the happy medium between what's, I guess, healthy for like me, what I eat, but having that balance of still enjoying my food for the gym, what is good for me to be where I want to be and how I look. And then I know we've talked about this before, especially coming from flying world. For me, wanting to be under a certain weight so I can fly certain aircraft, that's a limitation based on aircraft that I can't change that. So I might, change some things, or maybe I'm doing more cardio to be able to fly this thing or something like that, different things like that. And like astronaut, another thing, there are certain limitations that spacecraft can be between. So maybe I skip the 6 patty double cheeseburger. That's, yeah, maybe speaking from experience, but
Yeah, no, can you tell us more about that like environment of because I know for myself, I was weighing myself a whole bunch and then I got to the point of like, oh, I'm never doing this again. And now I haven't weighed myself since 2021. Technically, I've stepped on the scale because you took us flying, but I did not see what I weighed. Um, but it's an interesting conversation that we've had that like there's in my head there's a lot of reasons why we should never have to step on a scale. And yet, that is a really good example of a time when you should step on a scale. Because again, it's taking care of your safety. So, do you mind, I guess, just walking us through what are the thoughts you have when it comes to having to step on a scale for your safety in that sense?
Yeah, for me, it's I don't know, different, I guess, relationship when it comes to scales because, you know, in the military, they are very strict about physical fitness. Weight doesn't really matter, it's the fitness. And that's where like one of the things that annoys me is BMI. And I'll kind of touch on this one for a second before I go on to your question. I went to the doctors recently and I got upset with the doctor because, and I'm actually probably going to find a different doctor just because he clearly doesn't spend the time to read and listen to what I'm telling him. But on my chart, when I get the in the my chart webpage or whatever, it tells you the notes and everything like that. And on the notes, it said should start going to the gym. And I was like, all right. I'm like, I'd like to see you bench 365. But and like I run pretty much every morning, Stairmaster, all this stuff. So like, anyways, and then it had my BMI on there, and I think it was like 34.1 or something like that, which is just below morbid obese. And so on my medical record that goes to insurance, it shows that I am just below morbidly obese. And I was like, I don't really think that's an accurate representation of who I am. Uh,
Well, it's not an accurate representation of your health. Like you
no,
literally
absolutely
just said
not.
that the doctor was saying, "Oh, you should go to the gym." Or it's like, "Excuse me, I do." And it's like
Yeah,
the BMI is not taking into account your health at
yeah.
all.
So I did have a doctor when I lived in Tampa, which I did like because what they could do is waist measurements and take into account muscle mass over just a number that goes based on weight and height. Because
Mhm.
yeah, actual, and I find it really funny. So like I weigh, am I allowed to say how much I weigh?
It can be triggering to people, so I'm gonna say no.
I weigh X,
Yeah,
and
there you go.
based on my height, they say I should weigh Y.
Yeah,
There's a big gap between the two. If
yeah.
I were to actually lose the amount that they say between the two, I would probably look like a twig withering away, and I'd probably need to go to the hospital at that point.
Yeah.
So it's not a good representation. But back to track of what the question was. So
Flying and having to weigh yourself
yeah,
for safety.
so flying, space, all these different industries have very strict requirements. A lot of the traditional requirements to put into orbit, and it was about $10,000 a pound. So to keep costs down, they had a limitation of how much mass they were able to fly. From the aviation side, our aircraft and our understanding of aerodynamics and the performance of engines and flight surfaces and everything like that were made to accommodate a certain amount of lift and really another set of mass that they said was a viable amount of mass for this aircraft. So, for example, like a Cessna 140, which is an old plane from like the 1940s, still fly them today. It's not what we flew in. We flew in a Cessna 172, but they have a maximum takeoff weight that they can be, and that includes the fuel, the actual empty weight of the aircraft, all the avionics on board, your luggage, the personnel themselves, any equipment that they're carrying on, the oil, and they break down every little bit because they're if you go beyond that mass and where that mass sits inside of the aircraft, you can have the issue of the kind of the center of gravity. So if you try to balance something, you have a center of gravity. As that moves towards the back of an aircraft, it becomes unstable. As you move
Mhm.
it forward, it becomes more stable. But if it moves too far forward, you can end up in a bad situation as well. So that's why you have to do something called a weight and balance. And so that is why you have to know the weight of every single person that is going in the aircraft and the luggage and everything, and where it actually sits inside the aircraft plays a major role. If somebody who is super light sits up front and you have 3 4 people in the back, obviously 3 4 people in the back are going to be more than the person in the front, and that can cause a very dangerous situation. So you might be like, okay, I need the biggest person in the back come sit with me to even it out. And it's just
Mhm.
a balancing game. That's all it is. But
Mhm.
it's to keep things safe. And now, obviously, if you go over the entire mass of that safety of the aircraft, you can have wings bend and fall off. So obviously, you don't want to do that. That would be pretty terrifying. Now, there is a fudge factor baked into a lot of these numbers for safety. and something called G loading that you can kind of play with a little bit. But it comes down to safety for the most part. So going through the military, being on a scale, it's really just every day in life of really a pilot. You get on the scale before you get in a plane every single day you fly, just to make sure that you're doing that weight and balance appropriately.
Mhm.
Not really looking at it, and I think that's kind of like the mindset that goes. You're not looking at the scale for the most part. You get into the habit of I look at it for the purpose of the weight and balance, and the thought of I'm weigh this much today and this much yesterday usually doesn't become a thought because you're just so used to just I do the math of this and then we go.
Fair.
And it comes down to today I'm wearing a flight suit, tomorrow I might be flying in civilian clothing and I might not have my heavy boots on or something like that, so I might be 10 pounds lighter or something like that, and it's just because of what I'm wearing is different, or maybe the gear I'm carrying with me is different that day. So I've never looked at it in a sense of my own weight or image. It was more so just for math. And I think that's where there's kind of maybe a little bit of crossover, but I'm sure there's people that look at it and they're like, holy crap, like, how did that happen? I just went flying last week and now I'm in this bound or something like that. I'm sure there's people like that. And, everybody reacts differently to these things. But for me personally, I've just gotten so much in the habit of looking at it that I don't look at it in that way where it's, based on how I look, it's just, okay, today I'm in shorts and a t-shirt when I'm flying, but other days I'm flying flight suit and big boots, and those boots are heavy. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does definitely. I think it's also a great reminder that it's proof that the number on the scale is neutral, except for so many people, society has not made that number neutral, which is why you can find people like yourself that you can look at it and it's like, it's just a number. It's just going to be math for getting on this plane. And that's that. That's the end of the day. It doesn't impact any other thoughts. It doesn't change how you're going to work out or what you're going to eat. And for other people, it's not a neutral number because of all the other thoughts and beliefs that we've been forced like into our brains. So for more context, it was February 2023. Jake took Graham and I flying in a little private plane over Florida, which was like, I wasn't going to say no to that experience, right? But in my head, I was like, I also don't want to know what I weigh. And so I think I like stepped on the scale backwards and with my eyes closed. And then you just took the number, you didn't say it out loud, and we
Just
went
run
flying.
into my yeah.
Yeah, like you were the only person in that scenario that needed to know the number. I think that's another example of like when you go to the doctor, if they do truly need to weigh you, they're the only ones who need to know that number. You can tell them, like, oh, I don't want to know. Because if it's not good for you mentally, it's not going to be good for you physically, in my opinion. And so I'm so happy that like when we went flying, I didn't know the number because my brain would have possibly have gone to then just spending the entire flight comparing what I used like comparing that new number to what I used to weigh, comparing and like over analyzing how I look, what I weigh, what I've been doing, like analyzing the workouts I was doing, whether or not just because I was having fun, was it enough kind of thing. Instead, I
Mhm.
could actually just be present in the flight.
Yeah, we went
So
and lunch in Okeechobee.
yeah, lunch in Okeechobee, back to Melbourne. It was so great. And part of that for me was because I didn't have to know, like, I didn't have those extra thoughts. And I think that's the other reason, like, why I do what I do is that we can free up so much mental energy when we improve our body image. Like, those thoughts just don't have to be in your brain anymore.
Mhm.
But I do think it's a very interesting thing, like, you being in the military and then being in planes and wanting to be like an astronaut and everything of like the scale is a part of your life, but it's not running your life in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I have to keep track. Even like all transparency, I step on the scale every day.
Yeah.
And the way I do it though, to try and take all the other obscurities out of it, of like what am I wearing every single day, the same time when I get up, I check it and just track it. I know like it can vary quite a bit from day to day, especially depending on what did I eat and stuff like that. Did I have a lot of fluids is probably the biggest one. Like you can go to bed weighing one value and wake up in the morning, you didn't eat anything, you didn't do anything, and you could have lost a ton, and then you go and have like a thing of toast and you're like, whoa, what just happened? And your weight just naturally fluctuates a lot. So doing that is what I do is I look at it just as a trend over, maybe a month. Like, okay, I started the month here, and at the end of the month I'm at this. Okay, I'm tracking what I need to be where I want to be for, space or for flying this
Oh,
aircraft.
no biggie. Just gonna go to space someday. Whatever.
Yeah, hopefully. In the meantime, I'll just train the other people. But yeah, no, like for flying though, especially, like there's a lot of aircraft I want to fly. And, there's some cheaper aircraft I'd love to buy, but I want to be able to take people with me. And if I am over a certain amount, there's no point in buying that plane because I'll never be able to take anyone with me, not even like my little dude. So,
Mhm.
so a lot of the older aircraft don't have that um, capability to fly over a certain amount, and but they're cheap and they're fun to fly. So it's like I want to fly them, but I don't know. So I just try to track it, not more so just for me to know that like I'm within a range that still allows me to fly these things or do that. But that's the main reason. I don't really use it to guide my diet and like what I'm eating and stuff like that. Now the only thing I use to guide that is if I get a blood test and it doesn't look good, then I'm gonna, maybe change a couple things. But outside of that,
Which, yeah,
yeah,
like the blood test though can give you so much more information compared to the BMI or just like the number on the scale, right? And
TMI is
like,
the most thing I've ever heard of, but yeah.
yeah, and then again, going back to like also like how do you feel? Because I think that's another thing that we don't put enough weight into.
Yeah. I don't know, like so the how you feel one I think is an interesting one.
Okay, let's
Because
talk about it.
yeah. All right, here's some controversy. So, how you feel if something isn't right over a long period of time, you might still feel good but not know something has been changing. And that's the only part that I would say to that is a little, and that's where I think it's good to go to a doctor and get some feedback there and just get that kind of like insider information to what's going on. Um, because it's one of those things that like if you have a shoe that's too small for you and you wear it for a while, you're like, oh, it's not that bad, like it's fine. But then you look at your toe and your toes are bent in, and you're like, oh, geez, like maybe they aren't so good or something like that. It's one of those things that if it happens over a long period of time, you might not realize it. But I totally agree. Like for the most part, you're going to either feel good and active and energetic, or maybe you feel tired and sleepy all the time, and then that's like, okay, I need to change something, right? And it doesn't mean necessarily your body image. I've seen some of the most fit people have so many issues health wise. um and I was talking to some people when I was away in Seattle just last week about that. Like there's some people that are super fit and they might be young and then they need a stint put in their heart because they've had a heart attack, and it's like, whoa, how did that happen? They're so fit, they're so healthy. No, you got half of that right. They're so fit and health are not the same thing, right? Like you can look
Woo!
extremely no, but it's true. You can look extremely fit and ripped. Like the people at the gym that look extremely shredded, I'm sure probably 80% of them, and this is me being judgy, are taking creatines, proteins, amino acids, all these things that they don't know what they do because they haven't been around long enough. A lot of them take steroids. We have steroid bins in the bathrooms at gyms, and it comes with this little warning says don't take steroids, but if you're going to take them, put them in here. So at least they're safe about it, I guess. But like there's all these people that are super shredded, and I bet they probably won't see a day past 50. So,
Mhm.
it's one of those things that the image of what you look like does not reflect your health, and that can go both ways. Some people get just unlucky, but a lot of the times it's something you can change lifestyle to make you feel better. But yeah, that's one thing I've noticed is like, yeah, fitness does like your physical fitness and the way you look, even if you have a high endurance, doesn't mean you're extremely healthy.
100%. I mean, for myself, like I got to the smallest I had ever been, and all of my blood work kept coming back saying I had a lot of issues. I still felt like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, except everyone's like, "Oh, but you look so good." It's like, "Yeah, but I'm not doing good, guys. Like, what the heck?"
Yeah, like it might
Um,
be like there's mental health and physical health, right? And you might look good and be like mentally I feel fantastic, like look at me, but you go home and you're like
but seriously though, I was like I would wake up at like 5 a.m. and I'd go to bed at like 7 p.m. and I like need a nap at like 2 p.m. and like I wasn't nourishing my body. I wasn't fueling my body. I was overworking my body. And because of that, my body was trying to scream at me like, Leah, please change something. But I also think back to like, how do you feel? I think your argument is a very valid point of like, when you don't feel good for a very long time, like that just becomes your new normal.
Mhm.
And I know that is something that I experienced for a long time at like the beginning of my journey, like from 2014 to like 2016. I was so used to how I felt and like
Mhm.
the behaviors that I had that I was like, what do you mean I could feel better than this? What do you mean I could go and like not need a nap in a day? What do you mean I could XYZ? I think like based off of like the schooling that I did in 2023, 2024, I think a lot of that comes from when we don't feel good in our bodies, whether that be mentally or physically, we try to do everything we can to escape our bodies. Like, we're going to binge eat, we're going to over exercise, we're going to do everything we can to like numb how we're actually feeling. And because of that, we're not actually in our bodies to feel, oh, we don't actually feel good. So, like, we're almost like on autopilot for such a long time that it's when we can come back into our bodies and actually feel safe to be in that discomfort long enough to be like, oh, this is actually not comfortable. This is actually not feeling good. But it again takes a lot of, I think, patience and understanding that your body is on your team. Because when we don't feel good, it's like, oh, our body hates us. No, your body's on your team. It's always trying to send you messages, and you can, like, your body's designed to feel good. I think is what I'm trying to say is your body's designed to feel good. And when we go so long not feeling good, it's like, oh, maybe I'm just broken. Maybe I don't deserve to feel good. But
Don't even know.
pardon?
Right? Or you don't even know. Maybe you just think that's how you're supposed to feel, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it's like how society normalizes like period pain, for example. Oh, I'm just supposed to be feel like I'm dying once a week every single month. Like so many things like that are also normalized to, like, it's common in society for not feeling good to be the normal. And so it's like you're right, like you don't even know what good could feel like because you're like, "Oh, but this is just
Well,
normal.
people make
It
money
happens to
off.
everyone."
People make money off that. There's a business in it, and that's where they get it from. But so that's why, like for me, I think one of the things that the military put me in habit with was every year going to the doctors and getting, an annual blood test just to see. And like I can see for myself and see what my numbers are and what they need to be. And like one of the things that like I look at, which is interesting, more recently I've been looking at it too, is like cholesterol levels. And I talked to you about that a little bit. And it's interesting, like here in the US, they say if you have cholesterol levels that are, under 200, you're fine. Even if you're a little above, it's not that bad. If you look anywhere else in the world, like what is a healthy cholesterol level, it is so much lower. And it's like they're like, no, this is fine. Okay, what's the number one cause of death in like the Western world these days? Heart disease. Well, I wonder why. Like, does it have anything to do with us saying that that value is okay to be? And like, you don't feel cholesterol, right? There's one of those things that you could have high cholesterol and you're like, I feel great. That's what a lot of these bodybuilders, what they take, they're like on these diets where they don't eat any veggies, anything like that. They just chicken, just ground beef, just this, and all that. And it's like it just over time it does a number on your body. But because it's such a slow process, they're like, no, this is I worked out hard, I'm tired. That's just how it is, or something along those lines. And they're like, well, I don't do any of this, and maybe because a lot of those bodybuilders, and I'll stick to bodybuilders because that's what I know a lot about these guys. They won't do cardio because they want to keep as much muscle mass as probably and body fat down. So that they do is they do high intensity like weightlifting, heavy weight and stuff like that, and take all these different supplements and just eat very lean meats and stuff like that. And so they look shredded and super ripped, but inside their arteries are like clogged like this. And but they don't know because when was the last time they went for a run or tried to do anything more physically active, so they don't even realize what has happened to their body. And so, and a lot of them, they don't go and get checkups, so they don't even know what they don't know. So I think the other part of that is doing the due diligence to get checked out once in a while. And that's my personal opinion. And for me, it just came from being in the military. Every year I'm the military's investment. They're going to make sure their investment is in tip top shape. And they personally don't care how I feel. They want to know underlying, how is this body doing? And so they'll check all of that. Obviously, there's a mental wellness part of the military as well, but that's a different visit. Um, but yeah, from a health perspective, every year I just got into habit and going. Now I should probably do the same with other stuff, but for that side, I had a filling break the other day, so I got to go to the dentist.
Ooh.
I haven't had a dentist in a couple of years, so I had to find one out here. But
I've gone through 5
Oh, geez.
in the last year, so good luck.
I found a nice Jewish man that,
Oh, nice.
yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, go in there next week to see if they can just refill it. It doesn't hurt or anything, except for if I pour freezing cold water on it, and then I'm like,
Oh,
oh, that feels interesting. But yeah,
well,
that's what I just wanted to throw that part in there. Is like, again, coming back to the people that are like super strong workout all day, look shredded and all that. Again, a lot of these people say they take physical fitness and all that super serious, but they probably haven't been to a doctor in like 30 years, and then they're going to drop at 50. So
okay, and disclaimer, we're not wishing anyone dead, but it's
absolutely
just
not. Reality sometimes sets in.
um but I know, but I do think I think it's a good reminder that we look at all these people and they're like, "Oh, they've got to be so healthy. Like look at that six pack and look at this and look at that." And it's like, "You have no clue."
Well, that's the
And
whole
like
filter game on Instagram. Right. You look at Instagram and you might see, this couple on Instagram is like, oh my God, their life is so good, all they do is this, and as soon as that camera turns off, they're like at each other's throats with knives. Or you have the person that, like, in all their images they're flexing, they're looking good, or like the girl in the bikini who's like looks super fit, and it's, filtered, edited, modified, whatever, like the videos. It's like that is a facade that puts on front of a lot of these people's lives. If you were to see them in real life, you probably wouldn't recognize them because they don't look like what they do in their images. It's that whole like catfish show, right? They look like one thing on the screen and you meet them in person, like, whoa, you're not what I thought you were, you're a man. Or like, and that happens. But I'm just saying, like, that whole facade of social media, I think, has only made things worse, especially
mhm.
with the creation of these filters. And now AI just took it a whole, step farther.
Yeah, I've seen some crazy AI filters on TikTok where I think it like you give it your picture maybe or something, and then it shows you what you would look like if you were overweight or if you had lost weight.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, so there were a whole bunch of women I was seeing on TikTok using this filter. In one way, it was well, I guess in both ways. They were seeing it as like quote unquote motivation, but really they're just body shaming themselves and others. So I'm a little horrified of AI being involved over top of all the other filters and stuff that we have that oh dang, what is that word? Anyways, it
I know what you're
just
saying though. Like, especially
yeah.
like with the phone, I haven't seen that one, but just thinking about it, like every person holds weight or gains weight or loses weight differently. So I'm assuming they'll send a picture and it'll just overall just slim them down or make them big or something like that. And it's like that's not even accurate, anyways. Like, I know for me, like where I hold weight versus other people, it's different. Some people
Mhm.
hold it in their legs, some people hold it in their belly, some people hold it in arms, like face. You don't know. So to have an AI that say this is what you look like if you lose weight, that's not accurate. Now, if someone's looking for motivation to, change their life, and that's what kicks them off, as long as it's in the right for the right reasons, sure. But I don't believe a lot of it is like that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of hopefully good intentions from that kind of stuff. I think it's just typically wrongly executed for it to actually be healthy and sustainable long term.
You're nicer than I am. I would say there was no nice intentions in creating those things. I think they do it for vain, but
Oh,
the
you
only
mean like
reason,
intentions for creating the AI filters?
yeah, no one creates a filter to like make your face look super smooth because they're like, this is gonna help everybody. No, it's a vain thing. You want to look better than everyone else.
Okay, so I think I meant the intentions of the people using the filters.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
Otherwise, I agree. No, the people creating those filters, they don't care about you. They don't care about your
Oh,
health. They don't
of
care about
course.
your well-being at all.
Yeah, yeah. Now the people that are using them, sure, maybe it's like the same thing with that one that came out a while ago. It makes you look old, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, what am I gonna look like when I'm old? I was like, oh, I look like my dad. How about that? Cool. Like,
Surprise, surprise.
how does weird how that works? Like,
So in terms of all of these filters, this AI and like going to the gym and seeing people who are on steroids, but you don't know they're on steroids, how do you suggest someone not fall into like the comparison trap?
ooh, that's a hard one because especially like for me, like I go to the gym and I definitely think guys are less judgy. Um,
I
But
agree
like,
with that.
especially at the gym, like if I see somebody at the gym who clearly hasn't been doing it as often or something like that, or like I don't judge them. I'm just like, you're at the gym, I'm at the gym, like way to go. Like we're doing something to try and stay active, and staying active is really like 90% of the battle, right? So I'm like, way to go. But I feel like girls, and I'm not a girl, so I can't speak for it that much, but what I see at the gym, I like to people watch. I might go on the Stairmaster and just look around and see what's going on. You'll see people like talk behind people's backs and look at them and stuff like that. But like, to not get into the comparison thing, like from a guy's perspective, I think there's always some sort of comparison. Like I might go to the gym and I see somebody lifting heavy, and I was like, oh, way to go, man. Like I want to be able to lift that much. But I don't look at it like the way they look versus I look. It's how much they're able to lift versus what I can lift, or vice versa, right? Like I've had people come to me like, how are you lifting that much? And like the person might be twice the size that I am. And I'm just like, I've been doing it a while. Like, I don't know. Like, how do I do it? Just stay consistent, like something like that. And it's like, not so much comparison in the image. Now, I might see somebody that is super shredded or something like that. I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice to look like that. Now, the part that I don't like about it is I'd have to maintain it. And I'm like, I like sushi too much to want to maintain that. So, and for anybody watching, I love sushi. So just so you know,
Yeah. Woo! Go sushi.
on that note, when I was in Seattle, I had sushi. What, five of the 6 nights I had sushi, so which was nice. But and it's all on per diem, so I don't have to pay for it, which is even better. So I can get the real
That
good stuff.
sounds so good.
Anyways, yeah, back to the comparison thing. I think guys a lot of the times will take an image of somebody that they want to work towards looking at, especially in like the bodybuilding fitness space. And like growing up, like my dad had books from like Arnold Schwarzenegger that he would look at and be like, okay, doing this exercise should tone this part of my body a certain way, and let me see like if I'm doing it right and form on that to try and get to that point. And more or less like the physique side of it, like in the exercises, I'd say more so the old school ones. The new stuff's kind of weird, but old school exercises were really good at targeting certain muscle groups, and these people took it to the extreme, so they were able to see, yeah, this is what happens, and you don't have to take it to the extreme, but you use it as like guidelines to like help do something. It's like you're working on a car, this is a procedure you take to fix this part of your car. That's how it works. It's cause and effect. So if I'm going to want to grow my biceps and I do a bunch of curls, biceps probably going to get a little bigger. um that's, but I don't look at it in a sense as like I want to be that person or I want to have the same body as them. I'm built different than a lot of these people. Maybe I have short legs, little Jamaican legs. They're not meant to like be super long and look a certain way. And like my arm length compared to somebody else, they might have longer arms or shorter arms. That means that I'm going to look different than them. That's not a problem. It's just how it is, and it's fine. You just deal with it. Now, that might help with me lifting heavier weights if I have a lower lever that I have to move, like from a physics.
Oh.
I can
Yeah.
probably use less muscle to move more weight. For somebody who's got a lanky arm that's like twice the size, it's going to be a bit harder for them because the lever is not working on their side. Simple machines, right? So, but it's just part of like the fitness side of it. But yeah, when it comes to looks, like comparing, I think there's obviously a comparison there, but not in the sense of I need to do better to be like that. It would be more so in the sense of what exercises are they doing to perform this way or to lift that amount of weight. And maybe I should try doing some of those exercises because I want to be able to lift the same type of thing. Like shoulders, I've always been pretty strong doing, again, the lever size, but I can lift a lot of weight with my shoulders. And I've had people ask, like, how do you do that? And I'll be able to be like, maybe twice a week I focus on this muscle group and I do this and this. And it's a comparison of the exercise, not really the image, I would say. But I know people that will look and definitely be like, I need to look like that. And those typically I find into more of the mental game of I need to take this, and this pre-workout, I must do this, and they take all these things that masks the health underlying. And I think because they're like, I don't have the energy to do this, I'm going to take 6 pre-workouts and this, and then I'll have the energy to do it. And it's like, and then people would ask me, how do you have so much energy to do this? I'm like, I ate an apple.
Yeah.
They're like, what do you mean you ate an apple? And I was like, well, first of all, an apple has more or less the same effects as a cup of coffee. So there's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. Second of all, it's got natural sugars, none of this weird fake crap. A lot better for you, and it's crispy and tastes good. I don't know, but but yeah, I would eat an apple than go to the gym, and I would just go to tennis because the underlying health was better. I don't look like this guy that's got like 24-inch biceps and like a weird worm with like limbs that's just shredded. But I'm like, but yeah, I don't know. I just think that like um the two don't go together, and so like the comparison isn't accurate. Not to say it doesn't happen, but yeah, in my experience, I think that's usually you find the people that are doing the comparison are usually the ones that are trying to take all this other stuff to make them look like somebody else, and it's a battle you'll never win. And if you do win at the end of it, it's usually very short lived. And I think a good example of that are the old school bodybuilders, Ronnie
Yeah.
Coleman, Arnold Schwarzenegger, all these guys. Like Ronnie Coleman uses a walker now. Why? Because he pushed himself so hard to try and be Mr. Olympia so many times over and over and over again. He said hip replacements. He said all kinds of stuff because the number it did on his body was just so much.
How old is he?
50 something, I think, late
Okay.
50s. But he's destroyed his body.
Yeah.
Still big, and people ask him, would you do it again? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, that's mental illness, man. I'm sorry. But like like
Yeah, but that's just how deep so many of us get into, "Oh my god, I have to look like them. Oh my god, I have to be smaller. Oh, for him, oh my god, I have to be stronger and bigger."
yeah, and like that they took steroids, they're open about it, like they know they're not natural, like they all those competitions, there's like natural competitions and ones that are open, and it's pretty much means you can just steroids
Mm,
whenever you want to get to size. And those are the guys that look like they got six necks on necks that are all shredded and ripped, and it's like I didn't even know there was muscles there, and it's like there probably wasn't, they made some. But um but no, like that's like they get into that body image thing where they're like, I need to look like this way because that's how I'm going to win these competitions and I will look the best. And it's
mhm,
like, yeah, I don't know. That's why I prefer like for any of those things, and like for me going to the gym, what I kind of set like I would like to work towards this. I look at physique rather than the bodybuilders, because I'm like, I think physique is a more natural way to be in quotes in shape. Everyone's a shape, so but I'll just like for me personally, for somebody that likes to run, do all these different exercises and stuff like that. And I don't know if you can hear that. Nova's dreaming, the dog.
oh, hi, Nova.
Yeah, this
Sweet
time of day,
dreams.
every day, I can usually hear her going like making weird noises. But yeah, no, like I think that's probably a comparison I do, but I don't let it control how I am.
Mhm,
Like I'll look at the physique and be like, yeah, I'd like to do that. Kind of what exercises do they do to get to that point? All right, I'll look at that. I know diet's a big part of it, but I like sushi. Um, and sushi is my mental well-being. It keeps me sane. I like it. I'm not gonna
yeah,
give
sushi's also in my opinion, sushi's good for you. I
Yeah, it's
mean,
not bad. Obviously, everything in moderation. If you can if I ate sushi every day for the rest of my life, there's a reason pirates got scurvy, right? Like you need other nutrients as well.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but but yeah, no, I don't know. I look at that as like just a reference of like I don't want to look like that, but I want to work out to have similar physiques. And that's just me. I'm not doing it on this like never ending, I must do everything in my power to get there because I don't care enough. But I just stay fit to stay shape, because the biggest thing I want to do is live a long, healthy, happy life and be there for my family. So that doesn't
what a great goal. We
yeah,
love it.
that's the way I stay healthy. But
I think you brought up a great point, which was your comment of like thinking, okay, like what is this person doing to look like this? And then realizing, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not the lifestyle I want to live. And I think that's a totally valid and okay response to those things. And I think it's important, though, to still have that question of like, what are they actually doing? Like, what's the behind the scenes almost of how they got to that point? Because, like, I was raising my hand because I was like, I was that person taking a gazillion things of pre workout a day,
yep.
crashing out, and my whole life revolved around working out and I was miserable. So it's
We'll
like,
go back to Instagram, right?
mm,
You look at these images of people on Instagram and like people will be like, oh, I want to look like that. I was like, okay, and like you go look at their life and it's like, what do they do all day? They wake up, make a shake, go to the gym, make a shake, stay at the gym, go get some food, go back to the gym, maybe go for a run, post some stuff on Instagram, be like, look at my life, look at me, go on a boat for 30 minutes, take a picture, look at me, go back to the gym, go to sleep, wake up, and do it again. And they do that every single day. And people are like, oh, that's such a great life. Try it for a week and tell me how great it is. Like, no, it
yep.
sucks. Like, that is not something like, I don't know how many times I've gone to the gym in the morning and it's like 6 o'clock and I'm like, oh, do I really need to be here right now? And it's like I'll push myself to go there because there's some part of it I think it's good to keep moving. And I know throughout the rest of the day, I work behind a desk. It's not
Mhm.
physically active. And you have to move. You don't move, you stop moving, your body gets stiff, and then you get old and things stop working. And so you don't want that. So you have to move, you have to stretch, you have to do these things. And like as long as you keep moving, you will always be able to keep moving until you don't anymore. But but the thing is like you look at the lives of the people that look the way that you might think you want to look like, they're not living a happy life. Like it is not sustainable. And so that's why like I don't know, it's a facade that you got to just be careful not to fall into the trap of, I would say.
Yeah, I think you have to ask yourself. So you have to ask yourself, like, do you actually want to do what they're doing to achieve that body? But then also asking yourself and getting curious. Like, it's so easy to just quickly judge our emotions and our thoughts, but just try to get curious of like, why do you think you want to look like that? Why do you think you want to go on that boat and live that life that they're living on Instagram? For the most part, I would argue that it's not even actually what you want, but it's how you want to be perceived by others. And
Probably. Or
like,
vacation. Do it for a week and then go home. Go back to what you were doing. Like you don't have to do it every single day. Sure, it looks nice. But yeah, again, like you're saying, it's probably the image. You want other people to look at you and be like, I have 10,000 followers or 2 million followers. Look at me. I'm cool. Does that really make you cool? I don't think so. But
no, and it's always going to be just that like surface level happiness that you're going to just keep chasing and chasing and chasing.
mhm.
And so I think it's just helpful to have these reminders and these questions in mind so that that's like the best way to challenge and improve your body image is to be like, wait, in the past, I would have looked at this person and been like, damn, they look so good. I want to be like them. I'm going to do exactly what they do. And so now you have an opportunity to see them be like, hey, they look good. Good for them. And
Mm,
do I actually want their life? Do I actually want to do what they're doing? Why do I think I want what they have? And you
yeah.
can start living life for yourself.
I think another good thing to remember is for a lot of these people that are like that, that's their job. Right? Like
Mm-hmm.
their job is to look like that. If somebody paid me to work out from day start to day end, yeah, I'd probably look like that too. Right? Like that is what they do to get paid. Unless that is the job you want to do, that's not gonna say it's not gonna happen. Anything's possible. But I'm not saying I don't have respect for some of these people. Like it is a lot of work
Mm-hmm.
to get to that point. Like all the power to you. Like way to go. Like it is hard work to do that. Um, so like all the respect for them, but I don't like falling into the trap of like I want to look like that and thinking that, even if I work out every single day and I don't see those results, that I'm gonna like beat myself up about it. Absolutely not. Like again, that is their job. That's the only responsibility they have is that. Like, and you do have the odd person that's just, I will say in quotes, gifted, that just looks fit, right? And like they're like super high metabolism, eat anything in the world, and they just look shredded. Those people exist. That's fine. Again,
Yeah. And again, like you were saying, though, that doesn't guarantee that they're healthy
oh no,
mentally or
absolutely not.
physically. So then it's like, if you're not healthy and you're not going to necessarily live a long life, do you actually want that?
I know people that were like that had like in university that super high metabolism. So there was the guys like this that are like, and they would be so upset because they can't put weight on. They're like, I
Mm-hmm.
want to get bigger. They will go eat like 6 double cheeseburgers and just eat a terrible diet and everything they can to try and gain weight. They take protein, mass building protein, all this stuff, and they just can't put it on. So they're upset. And then you got the person on the other side that's like, I want to look like them. And then they get upset. And it's like, it's a battle you're not going to win.
Exactly. Well, I had a whole bunch of questions, but
Well, ask me one of them. How long has it been? It's been some time.
yeah.
Ask, give me one of them. Give me your best one. Let's hear it.
Ooh, okay, okay, okay. Let me see.
Don't ask about my sixth toe. I have normal toes.
No one's gonna believe you now.
Yeah, me faster.
And you know what? Your sixth toe is not the problem.
No, it's not. No.
No.
Let's
Okay, let me see. Okay, here's a question.
hear it.
For those of you who don't know, Jake is a dad. And woo! And there's obviously a lot of parents that listen to this podcast. What are you hoping Ollie grows up to believe when it comes to body image?
Probably the biggest thing would be those two things don't link. The people who are super fit and your actual health. I think that's the biggest
Mm,
thing. Like I definitely want to enjoy like working out together. Like I had great memories with my dad where we'd go to the gym and have like pull up competitions and stuff like that. And it was fun. It was a good time. It was a fun way to like be active and share time together. So I want to be able to do stuff like that with him. And so from a body image perspective, it would just be, as long as you are healthy and like we go to the doctor, everything's like that, like more or less it's fine. Obviously there's limits to things and in moderation, but yeah, no, I think that's probably the biggest thing. And like just let him enjoy life. I'm not going to stop him from having, the cheeseburger. Obviously have it, enjoy it. Like they taste good. Just don't
mhm.
eat it for every meal. Like, like that's all it is. I think it's just, we're all different. We all have different features. Everybody's built a different way, but at the end of the day, just, be happy, enjoy life, and keep moving.
I think that sounds pretty good. Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you playing sports growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I played sports.
Do you have a preference over sports versus the gym? And do you think your mindset was different between the two of them?
Oh, absolutely. Mindset was completely different. I have
Okay.
Yeah, so like from a sports perspective, I'm competitive. I like to push myself to the limits for a sport. So whether it was running or soccer, volleyball, basketball, like I played all those. I
Mhm.
like them just because I wanted to, like, especially like the team sports, you want to beat the other team. So it was like the competitiveness that was in there. From the gym, the only person I'm competing with is myself. Um,
Mhm.
which is I think the different mindset. Like for me in the gym, I'm there to better myself. I don't care about anybody else that's in the gym. I'm there for me, right? Whereas on a team sport, I'm there for the team. So I'm trying to do the absolute best I can. And the competitive side of me is always wanting to be, obviously, I want to be the best one on the team. But the team as a whole, I want the team to be successful. So let me do what I can to try and do that. So I think the mindset between the two is definitely different. Biggest one being, team versus single, me. Like when I run a
Mhm.
race, I'm not running to beat everyone in the race. I'm running to beat, the best time I've ever done. I've done tons of 5Ks. I'm not finishing in 17 minutes, 18 minutes like some of my friends were. 5K in 17 minutes is ridiculous. That's awesome.
That
Wait,
sounds wild.
yeah, that's moving way too fast. I probably wouldn't own a car if I could do that. But I can't do that. And that's because I'm built different. Not only am I built different, like I'm sure if I, you know, did more similar, like if all I did was run, maybe
Mhm.
get to that point. But I got other things I prioritize over that. A lot of these guys who are long distance runners, their idea of a good time is, I'm going to go run 10K today. I might do that once a week, and that's enough for me. They do it every day. No, my ankle nowadays probably wouldn't do it anyways after the surgery I had on it, but it's a lot better now, anyways. But yeah, I think the biggest key point is for the team versus for myself, depending on like if it's a team sport or individual sport. Usually individual sports, obviously if it's a tournament, you want to win the tournament. Otherwise, why'd you enter the tournament? But again, I've never been upset with not winning.
Mhm.
I've been upset if I didn't do better than I did before because I'm always
Mhm.
trying to like better myself, especially like in the military, the whole pilot mindset. Everybody wants to be the like top of the top. Obviously, you want to be top in course, everything like that.
Top Gun.
Yeah, no, the biggest thing for me, like in those scenarios, is I'm gonna do my very best to push myself to my limits. If my limits means I'm at the top, fantastic. If
Mhm.
it doesn't, that's fine too.
Love that.
The only thing I can do is my best, so it's fine.
Exactly. And your best is enough.
Yeah,
So, I have 2 final questions that I ask all of my guests. Lucky you.
I don't
So
have battery numbers if that's what you're gonna ask.
that's
Oh, sorry.
okay. So the first question is, what do you wish you could go back and tell younger Jake?
Now we're going back to the lottery numbers. Probably winning lottery. Fix a lot of problems with money. How young are we talking?
Up to you. I normally like for myself, I'll go back to like high school days. Other people will think of like younger than 10. Um, it could be any version of younger you.
That's one of the interesting ones because like I can go back to high school days, but high
Mhm.
school days I don't think. I don't have any strong recollection of, like I mentioned earlier, like what I looked like.
Hmm.
I don't know why it was never a concern for me, and probably why I never dated anyone in high school because I didn't care.
Those are two different things.
No, but well, kind of. But I mean, at the same set, if you don't have like a care for what you look like, you're probably not trying to impress anyone. And in high school, you get the girlfriend by trying to impress the girl. I didn't have the interest of impressing the girl. My interest was, how do I make my car go faster? Uh, so that wasn't that. I think maybe, yeah, maybe not high school then. Probably college, university
Hmm.
leading up to it would be, actually, yeah, here we go. That's a good one. College, university. That's probably the best because my diet was absolute crap. Remember when I mentioned the six patty cheeseburgers and stuff like that? I would go to McDonald's and eat like six double cheese. That's a bad idea. Not even like, it made me feel good. Sure, I was happy. I was like, this tastes so good. But it was so bad for me. Not even from like a body image perspective, but going back to like, you can look one way and be unhealthy. Like in
Hmm.
college, I worked out a ton, so I had a big appetite. The more you work out, the more your body's going to want to put food into it. Um, Especially if you're straining it and really like pushing the limits of your body, which is one of the things I enjoyed, especially military. You find the limits of what you can do and push beyond them both mentally and physically. And so that's obviously changed how I view things from that point forward. But the diet was one thing that was always left in the dust, at least at that point. And I would probably go back and tell myself, like limit yourself and maybe try something a bit better because it will come back to bite you. Yeah, I don't know. That would probably be the biggest thing for me is like knowing that those two things are not connected. And if because I look one way does not mean that I am physically healthy. Uh,
Hmm.
and so knowing that like maybe you don't need to eat all those. Try sushi sooner.
Try sushi.
Yeah. Better alternative and tastes good and it's much better for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like having more nutrient dense foods in
Yeah,
your life.
a cheeseburger is probably not it.
It is a nutrient, very nutrient light.
Yeah. And
At least
I
if you're
would
going to McDonald's.
yeah, I would literally like not eat breakfast so that I could eat more burgers for dinner. Which is not a good. They were cheaper then too, so just to say, like you used to be able to get them for $1.29 Canadian. Now they're like
Oh, that's like
$4.
free
I know.
American.
Find that on the street. No, that's probably what I would go back and tell myself. Just the two things are not connected. Um, and to, watch the nutrient side of what you put into your body a bit more.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, when I was in college, I ate pasta for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Or the
And it's
pasta
like,
queen.
I was a pasta queen. And is pasta bad? No. Was having it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner bad? It wasn't making me feel good. I didn't realize it back then, but it's recognizing that my body was asking for more nutrient dense foods. It was also asking for pasta, but it doesn't have to be pasta breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It can be pasta for dinner and like nutrient dense foods and like actually listening to my body of what feels good. Back then, eating pasta for breakfast, lunch, and dinner was serving me in a sense, but not serving me in terms of how I was feeling physically or
Yeah.
mentally. It was serving a different purpose that could have been solved by like going to therapy, for example.
And like the human body is pretty resilient. It's really
Mm-hmm.
impressive, like how little nutrients you can give a body and how long it'll last before you really start seeing downside effects to it. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, like the burgers, I did that for years. Didn't think anything of it. And then, eventually, you get some tests and you're like, ooh, I gotta switch things up. So then you switch things up. And
Yeah.
good news is your body's resilient. You can reverse things and stuff like that by some simple changes. But yeah,
It, it's all just one big experiment. But the second question is what advice would you give to someone who is just starting to learn how to love their body more?
I think the biggest thing is knowing everybody's different. Like comparing yourself to somebody else is probably the worst thing you can do because again, you don't know what goes on behind the scenes. They're also different person. Everybody's built different. Like I said, I got short legs. I'm not gonna have these long, sexy legs. I'm gonna have short instead. Doesn't mean they're not sexy. So, there's a difference there. So knowing that your body is different than the person next to you or the person you're looking at on Instagram or social media or anything like that, I think is a big key thing. And knowing that those differences exist and it doesn't change how you should view yourself or view them. um Everybody has their own thing, you know, you learn to appreciate it regardless of who they are or how they look. And again, the health side of it, you don't know that, like, just because somebody looks super fit doesn't mean that they are super healthy. And you got to ask yourself, you know, what is the priority to you? You know, is it to know yourself, be healthy, live a long healthy life and enjoy who you are, or are you out there just to make everyone else happy? If you're out there to make everyone else happy, then all the power to you, go to it. But you will not be happy. If you want to make yourself happy, then forget about everybody else. Stop looking at them. You know, if that means deleting social media for a bit to kind of get back on the same page, do it. Like, you know, I think that's the biggest thing with social media these days is you see everyone else and you forget you. Really, right? Like,
Yep.
you go in there, you're not looking at pictures of yourself, you're looking at pictures of other people, their lives and stuff like that. And I think it's become very vain in a sense where everybody's looking on there and comparing themselves to other people. Like, and you can tell if you look at somebody else's social media and like what they're looking at, their pages and that, like mine's full of cars and airplanes, right? And like rockets and like NASA Johnson, stuff like that. That's my feed. And so, you know, my feed's kind of filtered. I'm not comparing myself to a car. But you know, maybe it was all bodybuilders. And then it's really easy to slip into that mindset of, you know, I see this all day, every day, I should look like that. And understanding that that's not realistic, and not because it's not achievable, because it's probably not healthy, and understanding that you're different. Your version of that might look completely different than that. And that's fine. So I think just disconnecting that part and understanding what you need for you.
Love it. It's almost like you're trying to say your body is not the problem.
Yeah, unless you're trying to fly a plane that doesn't allow it. But but that's my problem.
Yeah, that's a you problem, Jake, not
Yeah.
a me problem. But
Or it's you know, or it's my wallet and I just need a better plane. But you know, that's more
see,
money,
there's another option.
money buys happiness. Not the message getting across. But yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share all of this with us. I think it was a very fun conversation. I'm happy to have had you on the podcast. And for those listening, where can they find you on the interwebs?
Oh, the social media we shouldn't be looking at.
Yeah.
On Instagram, I have X, formerly Twitter. Username's all the same on both of them. Astro Jake. Search Astro Jake. It's either Astro Jake 24 on Instagram. And actually, I think I updated my one on X as well. So that's Astro Jake 24. And then I do have my own podcast for if anybody's interested. And that's just the Red Mars podcast. You can look it up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever. You'll find it. And started doing some more video podcasts more recently. So might do one tomorrow if I have time, since I'm off work the next 2 days. So
Nice.
out there too.
That's exciting. My alarm was just going off. Whoops.
I might actually do a podcast on physiological effects of space, which would go more into detail about like body builds and weight and stuff like that, because it's more in space than just your weight or physique. There's spacecraft that are built a certain way, and for example, you can't move the seat up, right? So it's like only certain people will fit these things. So fighter jets are another one, like an F-18. Flying an F-18, if the top portion of your leg is too long, you can't fly it because you can't move that seat back. So if you go to eject, you're cutting your legs off at the knee because it'll get caught underneath the firewall, not the firewall, but where all your instruments are and everything like that. Your legs kind of slip into these slots where you push your rudder pedals. And yeah, if your leg's too long in that certain part, then it's no good. So lots of other things that people don't really realize when it comes to that.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah, lots of stuff that goes on there. We talk about all that stuff. We talk about different technologies, stuff around kind of my background in space and aerospace and science and programming and computer science and all those things. But yeah, that's the Red Mars podcast. You can find me on all those different platforms. Otherwise, Astro Jake 24.
Awesome. I will also link all of those in the show notes. So if you are interested, just scroll on down and then you can click the link and you can go follow my brother. All right. So thank you again for being with us today. And until next time, your body is not the problem.
See you later.